Alright, I've gotten a few more days hands-on with the three new characters, and I think I like playing as Poison the most, although a lot of people are saying Poison is the weakest of the group. Honda has some really prominent strengths, even though he doesn't have good Oki off of a lot of his stuff, but Lucia's good in a really straightforward manner that's easy to compare to other good characters. But Poison seems to be the one that people are the most unsure about, or just in a similar manner to when Falk came out and people weren't sure about how they were supposed to be playing the character. So I will give my interpretation of the moveset and what has worked well for me, because I think that Poison has some really prominent strengths, and even though she has some clear weaknesses and she has some awkward elements to her game plan, so I don't feel comfortable in saying that she's particularly good, but if she's able to abuse her strengths, I think that she's really dangerous. So let's go over the moveset. You have a 3-frame jab. There's been some weird bits of contention on whether or not this jab is actually a 3-framer, so I would just like to demonstrate a +1 situation into a 5-frame medium. Absolutely blown up by that, which it would not be by crouch jab, like so. And you have clear combo routes with the character. You're only +3, but you can convert with it. So I don't understand really why people are wondering. I mean, obviously it can have some travel time to reach its max distance. It probably is 4 frames about here. But, yeah, this is absolutely a 3-frame button. Alrighty, then we have crouch jab. All of our other lights are 4 frames. This is, okay, so stand jab is a 3-framer, and it's +2 on block, which is pretty good. She can probably abuse her pressure a lot better against characters that don't have 3-framers, because standing light punch has less pushback than crouching light punch, so you can go straight from that into her 6-frame mediums and abuse that space a little bit more. But yeah, you also have her longest range 4-framer and standing light kick, which is +1 on block, and it can be buffered at about this range into the medium, whatever this is called, heel, I guess. But it doesn't reach very far. You have to be pretty close for that to work. And crouching light kick is kind of It's a low confirm as a rapid cancel, you know. You know, you can have some weird, wacky setups with it, where you can just check low really quickly without taking too much time. So, like something like that. She does have an instant overhead on Fuzzy Guard or on Wake Up. Anyway, so yeah, then so that's your lights. Then you have your mediums. Both medium punches are 6 frames, and they're both really good on block. This one's +3, this one's +4, and it's a fantastic anti-air. It doesn't reach very far. She has some other longer ranged anti-airs for people jumping in from further away, but this anti-air is really effectively, it'll deal with weird, wacky stuff like Bison head stump or Devil's Reverse or cross-ups or things. This is really good. Really reliable. Standing medium punch is an okay buffer. You know, these recover pretty fast. Medium kick takes a bit more time, has a bit more recovery, but has a bit more range. It's -2, which is pretty good for its range. Then we have crouching medium kick, which hits pretty far. It's -2, but it's +4 on hit, so if you really need to, like, check the opponent low from a bit further away than normal, you can do that too. Standing medium kick is special cancelable, but crouching medium kick is not, so that's a weakness. But she can get around. She has some options around characters walking backwards. You know, it's not like Falk. She has some better options for applying her pressure, even though she doesn't have a special cancelable low. She has a command low. She has this unreactable low that's reaches really far. You know, you can cancel into it from anything that's special cancelable. And it's -2 on block, and it pulls him forward, so it's not a great move to use just like this. But it will be pretty rewarding on hit. You can get that without trigger. And of course, we'll talk about medium heart rate, or EX medium heart rate, but yeah, that, even if they're walking backwards, they won't be able to escape from getting pulled into throw range. Her sweep, I think, is pretty bad, honestly. It's pretty slow, and it's very minus, not super great, not great range. Roundhouse is pretty fast for a move that has crush counter properties, but it's very short ranged. It has decent pushback, so it's like safe enough to use. I would have to experiment more with this in actual matches to see like how effective trying to bully at this range with this move would be, because it does reach technically a bit farther than her other buttons, which she does have a problem like putting out buttons at this mid-range, especially against characters that have just better footsie buttons, like Karen or anything like that. So abusing this might be good. It doesn't whiff for very long. When it hits from farther away, it's less minus. But yeah, I haven't messed with that as much because I don't like putting myself at the -4. Then we have heavy punches, so standing heavy punch. Great range, terrible hurt box, and this is similar to Falk's standing heavy punch in that it's one of those things that you're not going to be able to lock the opponent down very well. People are going to be jumping out of this pretty easily. So even if I were to do like +3 and a heavy punch, no dice. And it whiffs for a long time, so it's pretty susceptible to that. But I would say, and like I said, it has a pretty bad hurt box. It can get like stuffed out pretty easily by jabs and stuff, even from long range. But, you know, like, let's not pretend that having a really long-ranged special cancelable move, you know, is inherently a weakness. It's still a good move, but you know, it's not as good as some other characters. Could be better, and it doesn't necessarily help her as much against characters with better buttons that they can stick out at this range. So, for heavy punch, it's -6 on block. But you're basically, I don't see a reason to ever not cancel it into heart rate. Because if you cancel it into heart rate, then let it go, you recover faster. You're actually -2 on block, and you're +6 on hit, which allows you to get combos and counter hit conversions. So you can do like something like that, or on counter hit from further away, you can do. So yeah, you can play a pretty decent game. This is totally frame tight. If I were to set him to jump again, there's no gap between that and that, so it's a pretty safe thing to throw out. Okay, people will tell you that the light heart rate is perfectly timed to create a frame trap after heavy punch, but that is not actually really the case. Anyone with a decently fast jump will be able to jump out of that, even if you release it as fast as possible. That is not a good thing to go for, in my opinion, on like a regular basis. I think medium heart rate is the way to go, and you want to time it so that you're catching them as a frame trap, or catching them because it hits higher up than the low one, obviously. So time it so you're catching a backdash, catching a jump, catching a knockdown. I would recommend doing that, and that, like, the fact that you have to wait a little bit longer to pull the trigger on the medium heart rate means that you get the opportunity to do more pressure with cancels. You know, threatening to release it. It does a lot of damage. This does way more than a regular fireball, getting hit by this once. So people don't want to get hit by that a bunch of times in a row. So, you know, if you can apply pretty safe pressure, moving backwards or forwards with that, which means that it opens up the opportunity to get like cancels going. It's only -2 on block, so, and this button has really good range, so you can pressure from this range pretty effectively, especially combining it with some other options like light kick into medium heal buffers, stunning medium punch, or medium kick buffers. This is a pretty safe move to throw out, whatever this one is called. And it does decent chip damage. The heavy version does about 30 chip damage in total, but it's really unsafe. This does 18 chip damage each time you do it. And it's pretty safe at this range at only -7. Each one of these doesn't even do that 18 chip damage. It only does 16, so that's pretty good. And yeah, a benefit to doing this version as opposed to the low version is that it does slightly more damage and chip damage. Then we have Crouching Heavy Punch, which is really handy because of its massive range and the fact that it hits low. But I think this is a big risk to go for that you shouldn't define your zoning or your neutral around very much. -11, you know, it's gonna take some time for people to adjust to figuring out how they can punish it at different ranges, but lots of characters are going to be able to punish this move on block from really far away. So once they get used to it, once they, you know, lab the matchup and practice it, you're gonna get punished for doing this a lot. In addition to the fact that it's just a big risk to go for it in the first place. It can be whiff punished. It can be easily jumped on. She doesn't have an invincible anti-air. Even her super is not really an effective anti-air. If I were to say, here. So I have Rashid just randomly walking around and occasionally jumping with a heavy kick. So I'm going to hold the heart rate. See, it's hard to react to a jump in, even to just release it in order to block. Because you're standing up the whole time. So yeah, you can release it just in time to block. Sometimes, but even if you were to release it in time to block. Showtime! Her super is very slow. Even though it's invincible, it is very, very slow. They'll probably safe jump your super anyways, even if you're to do that. So, she doesn't have, you know, the courtesy of, you know, being able to whiff big attacks, but still recover just in time and be able to anti-air. She needs some degree of preparation in order to anti-air effectively. So, whiffing these big attacks and doing this zoning at a mid-range where they can jump in on you, I think is not a very effective strategy. Sure, you can be holding the anti-air one and release it to bait them, but you can't necessarily, you can't combo off this without having super to cancel it. So, I don't think it's a big enough punish for them jumping in for you to, you know, consistently try to play the entire match zoning like this. Unless you're outside of their jump range, like back here. So I think that's where you can play this effectively, but it's not, you're not going to be able to play the whole match like that. And there's, you know, you're just one guess away from not being able to keep that zoning up anymore because she doesn't have immediate invincible anti-airs to keep everything really, really compact. So I think this is a really good move, and I think that, you know, she can zone to a certain extent, but this is not going to be a heavy keep-away character. You're going to have to be playing in this range where it's not going to be as effective. She does have options to play at every range, but really I think she wants to be frustrating the opponent at some point, getting some damage in like this, and the rest of the time, I think she wants to be mauling her opponent with pressure. Alright, so next up, yeah, we have our specials. We have this one, which is pretty decent for getting chip damage. You can medium kick into it for like an easy hit confirm. Technically, you can already hit confirm medium kick by itself. Like so. It's okay, you know, I mean, it's not the easiest hit confirm. It's not like Ken's crouching medium kick, but it's okay. then the medium version will pull them back in. It's pretty useful for, she has a lot of ways of keeping the opponent standing, not knocking them down. Once she's launched them, she doesn't have any way to air restand them, but, yeah, if she's getting, you know, counter hit conversions or anything, there's lots of ways for her to pull them back into range, still standing at, like, a +2 situation in throw range. So yeah, it's easy for her to keep up pressure. It's your choice if you want to do that in certain cases. She has lots of ways she can end combos, a lot of which are like just leaving them standing, but a lot of which also have like pretty good Oki and corner carry and more damage. So it's your choice if you just want to go for the standing resets all the time, or something like that is not going to have as good of Oki. So if you don't have meter in this situation, you would probably want to just go for that if you want to keep up your pressure. The heavy version of this has a pretty okay knockdown and does decent damage. It's a good way to cancel into super. You know, it's a fine ender, especially if you have trigger 1, because you can get some good corner carry. And you can throw that, and you can continue to apply pressure. So yeah, a lot of people have been doing this, where they'll do this and set up a flame Molotov, which is effective if they back roll, and it can be effective if they neutral recover like this. But you'll have to at least push them into the fire, whereas they're already in the fire if they back roll off of that knockdown. The heart raids are really good as stance cancels. I think the best buttons to do it off of would be heavy punch and medium punch, because medium punch will go into medium heart raid. And this standing heavy punch will only be -2 on block when stance canceled, and medium punch will only be -3. So at ranges where you can't, you know, frame trap after medium punch anymore, you still have an option to keep up pressure without committing to a heavy punch that they could interrupt or jump out of. So I think standing medium punch into it is a good option, and heavy punch is a really good option, because you get a lot of time to mess with the opponent and threaten to pull the trigger on it. As for the heal, light is a good anti-air. If you hit them really high up, you can convert off of anti-airs without needing trigger or super, but as far as I know, I don't think the other ones are very good anti-airs. And but they can be pretty good knockdowns, or well, the heavy kick one especially is a very good knockdown and really, really damaging combo starter. You just go straight into that, and you'll do like absolutely absurd amounts of damage. And the EX1 is, of course, a really good converter off of mediums, which will launch the opponent and is cancelable into a few different options. So I mean, you can cancel it into like that, pull them back down. You're not really getting great corner carry or anything off that, but you can get some decent damage in. That will be your optimal stun output, doing that. But usually damage and corner carry is going to be like... So yeah, you can do that. That's not a great knockdown. If you want a better knockdown off of this, you can go for medium punch or medium kick after the V-skill. And then you'll cover both knockdown options pretty easily. If they, okay, a trick to doing this, which is something you have to do if you're a birdie player as well. So if you double dash twice really quickly, you're going to be right here if they back recover. However, if you double dash and then delay and then dash again, just put a slight delay in, you're going to be right in front of their face. Because if you dash too early before the back recovery has kicked in, you'll dash, but you'll stop moving because you've already hit where the character is, so you can't move any further, but then he'll continue moving backwards. So yeah, same with Birdie, where you have to put a slight delay on your forward dash to make sure you're staying right on top of them on the back recover. But yeah, that's really good Oki. Then we have these attacks. Pinheal, I haven't memorized the single one of her move names. So the light version of this, all these have some pretty decent applications. They all go really high up. They go over lows, they go over buttons, they go over fireballs. They're throw baits. Light and medium are both -4 on block. Medium is combo fodder because it's +3 on hit. So you can go into stuff like that. Heavy causes a knockdown, but heavy goes really, really far. These moves work similarly to dive kicks in that they're better if you're aiming at the ankles. So you can have a little bit better frame advantage if you're aiming at the ankles, especially the heavy version, which is -2, which can be made to be -0 if you're hitting them lower at the ankles. EX version doesn't work like that because it only hits when it lands. So there's no way to space it in a more effective manner. EX is totally projectile invincible, pretty good. Doesn't have a great knockdown because you can't forward dash on a normal recovery, but you can't walk up for a back recovery. Similar situation with the heavy one, but they are still useful moves. In fact, some matchup-specific information here. The fact that it goes over fireballs, especially the ones hanging out at a low angle, really quickly is pretty effective in this matchup, because Rashid's hurtbox doesn't extend very much when he does his fireball, even though it is very, very minus. It has a lot of recovery as a fireball, but some characters can struggle to get around it because of the weird angle that it goes in. Especially big bodies that have trouble jumping over it. But you can react to it with poison and just go over it with the pinheal moves, which is pretty good. Of course, they can have some delaying properties, which means that you know, you can use them as a frame trap, and then if you catch, like, especially with the light one, if you catch a counter hit, you can get a simple light conversion at your +4. Oh yes, something I forgot to mention about the EX heal launcher. The fact that you can cancel it into other specials means that you can, you know, go for the anti-air heart raid. You can move forwards a little bit before you do it to get a little bit more corner carry. You can also do, if you were to do it straight into the EX heart rate raw, the anti-air one, it wouldn't hit all the way and it wouldn't be very optimal. However, you can choose to do heart raid and then cancel it, and that'll give you better recovery, which means that you can go straight from that into the EX heart raid, and you'll get a slightly higher damage 2-bar combo. It only does 10 more damage, and it doesn't even really do more stun. Yeah, it does the same amount of stun, but it is an option. And lastly, before we get into other stuff, we have her V skill. It has two versions. There's a short version, there's a long version. They both suck to randomly throw out. You know, they'll go over fireballs. But she has other options to go over fireballs. This one, okay. If the opponent is crouching and they stay crouching, this cannot hit them. So any character that has a crouching anti-air, or this has a pretty bad hurt box, so characters can just, like Honda can just crouching medium punch this. Basically any character should be able to just deal with this. But if you catch them standing up, if you hit them, you know, from far out, you can convert with, like, say, a light kick for a good knockdown. Depending on how confident you are, you can go for something heavier. And you can, at certain ranges, combo this off of, like, your mediums. Which, you won't be able to, like, convert into a button afterwards, but it gives you an okay knockdown. You can walk up for both wake-up options. And you build a little V-gauge, and you get some decent corner carry without having to spend meter. So, that's an okay option. If you catch them blocking, you can usually, unless they have an invincible anti-air, you can usually, like, frame trap them and then, you know, start your pressure. But one benefit, of course, to this is that if your opponent is crouching, which, you know, they'll be able to deal with it easily, but, so you can do a cross-up, it's really easy to interrupt it before that happens. But one benefit is that you can, at least, if they're crouching, get out of the corner. If they stand up into it, of course, you know, they're going to have to block it, which means you're going to get your pressure. So they're going to have to, even if they see it, they're going to have to stay crouching if they can't just anti-air it immediately. Like, Rashid would be able to, because he has a crouching anti-air, but another character might have to wait until you fall down a little bit and then jab you out of the air or something. But, you would probably get out of the corner by then. You would switch sides, so it can be useful. It's pretty risky. I don't think it's a great option to just throw out in neutral. But, you know, it can also go over fireballs. It's fine. So yeah, that's basically all of her moves. I mean, of course, we have frame traps, +4 on block, ridiculous frame data on some of these frame trap sequences. And, of course, we have our EX moves. So this, as an EX move, can convert off of lights that the normal strengths normally don't. And will keep them in place for a long time, which is handy, of course, for when you have the flame carpet on. You'll stack up a lot of that burn damage. Then we have our various heart rates. So yeah, that one can convert into the light heal. Medium heart rate. Okay, so this is where we're getting into it. This can also be used as a reactionary anti-air from long range if you're pretty sharp with the reaction, and it does a lot of damage and stun. But anyway, so yeah, medium heart rate. This is the character right here. This is the move. In terms of, you know, your best pressure option, you know, your best way to spend bar, probably, or yeah, I would say your best pressure and your best neutral option as well would be medium EX heart rate. It's much faster than just doing a regular heart rate, because you don't have to go into the stance, it'll just come out. It's not instantaneous, but for its range, it is extremely fast. Which means that, and it pulls them in, it pulls them closer, you know, it reaches this far. Not only this, little known fact, but it also eliminates fireballs. It's a really handy move to just immediately control space in neutral. It has a decent hurt box, but even if you get a trade, it's really good on trades. Much better than these. These are great on trades, you know, they'll go through fireballs. Here, let me demonstrate it as well. Pretty handy to out-damage Shotos in a fireball war, because you can trade with fireballs like that, but you just do so much more damage with your heart rate. So yeah, you have like some anti-zoning options. Just taking trades with the heart rate is really, really effective, because no projectile zoner is going to outdamage you if you're trading, you know, blow for blow. But anyways, yes. Medium heart rate is like, think of it like Ed's V-skill. You know, you can fully charge it up, and it reaches pretty far, and it pulls opponents closer to him, and he can start his offense, okay? This, you don't have to wait for him to charge up. You don't have to take the risk of someone reacting to it and jumping in on you. This is just a really good tool. Obviously, you know, you think of it like a fireball. If you throw it out, it can be jumped in on. But because it hits twice, it has pretty good active frames. If an opponent happens to be jumping, they might just fall into the second hit, which has a pretty decent hitbox. This is a really good move to threaten. So long as you're in this space and you have bar, and you're willing to, like, spend it to start your offense, even with her mediocre mid-range options that, you know, get beaten out by a lot of other characters with better normals in this range, she still has one trump card that will beat them all. In any time she can threaten to just pull the trigger on medium EX heart rate, and then on hits or on block she starts her offense. Of course, this is also just a great pressure tool in general. Like if the opponent is you know, blocking like a long sequence. So that entire thing was just frame trap after frame trap after frame trap. Like, it's pretty ridiculous, the things that she can get. And unlike, say, Cody, where, you know, he can do EX Zonk over and over, she has longer frame trap options with more plus frames on each one. You know, she can, not only can she just have really plus on block mediums to threaten with, but she can also threaten with her bigger, like, heavy punch that can convert pretty easily into stuff. She can do whip cancels. And then at any point, even if you're backed out to a range where you can't, like, you can always, you know, the possibility that you'll just pull them back in with a raw EX heart rate is, you know, always present to continue your offense. And, unlike Cody's EX Zonk, this is pulling you into throw range. In fact, it's pulling you into tick throw range. You can still tick throw, which I forgot to mention. Poison can tick throw off of both of her light punches really well. Light kick as well, but light kick is only +1 on block, so keep that in mind. So yeah, this character's pressure is pretty ridiculous. Medium kick into EX heart rate is a 4-frame frame trap, and it trades with 3-framers, which you get huge combos off of. Alright, as for combo routes, you have your light punch, your 3-framer, your standing light punch, is only +5 on counter hit, so it does not convert into a medium. So you'd have to go into a light kick as your longest range conversion, which you can, you know, do into EX. Or just take the medium kick launcher. Or just, you know, take the frame advantage of the, but not actually convert. So, in general, I recommend if you're, like, predicting a dash or something, stuff it out with a crouching light punch. You're gonna get +6. And it's a lot easier to convert. Now, depending on the range, like when you're applying pressure, when you're like stuffing offense, standing medium punch, okay, so crouching medium punch has very short range, but if you are doing crouching medium punch, the medium whip will always pull them back into like crouching medium punch range and throw range, whereas like if you're doing like say a longer range thing from standing medium punch, you're generally going to pull them back into throw range. but, you know, you're not going to be quite as close. You're not going to be, like, in a crouching medium punch range, which works, and sometimes you don't even be in throw range. So from, like, max distance, standing medium punch, the light heal is going to put you the closest on a restand if you're not just going to take a knockdown. Because if you don't have meter, you're not going to get a very good knockdown like that if they back recover. So yeah, keeping up the pressure with that. In fact, I want to demonstrate something interesting. So, if I were to do, say, crouch jab, standing medium punch, and I have meter, but I want to keep the pressure up, I want to keep a restand, you know, I'm already committed, I have a lot of resources, so I'm going for the stun. I'm going to keep, like, forcing my pressure with EX heart rate. If you land a hit like this, well, do you just do this, like EX heart rate, to pull them back in anyways, or do you do that? Well, it's actually pretty much your choice, because if you, or do you just take a corner carry and knockdown and don't restand them? Well, if you're pretty close and you do the medium whip, you'll pull them back into the same range pretty much, but you'll do less damage than doing this EX heart rate. But that did 194 damage, whereas if I were to do this, that did 162 damage, but the chip damage from medium punch into EX heart rate is 32, which means that it does literally identical damage to do that into pulling them back in at pressure. You spend the same amount of meter ultimately, but you do the exact same amount of damage as doing that as just comboing straight into the EX heart rate itself. So it's your choice if you just want to take the increased stun and less risk of them busting out with some sort of defensive option or invincible reversal, or if you want to keep the possibility of continuing to mix them up without spending bar. So pretty much your choice. It does identical damage either way. And if you're extra close and they don't have a 3-framer, or you think they're not going to press it, crouching medium punch into standing medium kick will do even more damage on chip or gray life than comboing straight into the EX heart rate. Another really prominent strength of this character, great throws. Really good throw range, and excellent Oki off of the throw. You know, you can get a meaty standing heavy kick afterwards. So it'll only be -2, and you'll be at a pretty decent range away. So you can pressure with that. You can get a meaty standing heavy punch, which you can just cancel straight away. Into the EX heart rate, get a throw loop going. Obviously, her EX heart rate is you're going to get V-reversaled a lot playing this character. And some matchups are going to be much worse for you than others. Like any matchup where a lot of your whip attacks, or you can't hold stance because they'll just attack you from full screen with like a really fast attack, like Honda's headbutt, or something that just trades with your whip a lot. Those matchups are going to suck. She has no defensive options other than a 3-framer and a really long-range V-reversal, which she has. She has no armor or invincibility, and her super is complete garbage as an invincible reversal. It reaches far, but it is really slow. In fact, you can actually do not only like safe jumps and everything that you would normally be able to do, but similar to what you can do against Ed and Falk and Urian, you can meaty like crouch jab on her wake up, but you'll still recover in time if she does a wake up super. It's that slow. So anyways, yeah, you're gonna get V-reversaled a lot, but V-reversal is much more threatening on a character like Rashid. Okay, because if Rashid V-reversals your medium heart rate, your EX heart rate, he will actually, anyone with a side switch V-reversal, depending on how long it takes to go through. Minot, you're going to be fine because Minot's is really slow, but Colleen and Rashid, if they V-reversal the first hit of your medium heart rate, they're going to actually recover at, they're going to be +3. They can actually combo, if you do it at this range, he'll be right next to you after he V-reversals, and he can immediately punish you with a 3-framer. It's only light kick for him, and it doesn't combo into much, whereas Colleen can punish you a lot heavier, because her light punch actually can link into, like, her full combos, so... Yeah. Colleen, Rashid, and probably some other characters are going to be really bad matchups for Poison, just because they can just punish her EX heart rate, and probably a lot of other stuff that she does with side switch V-reversal. It's pretty rough. A few other things before we move on to triggers. Crouching medium punch is extremely active. So if I were to do like this, which is a really excellent knockdown in the corner, I can do a crouching medium punch and it will cover both knockdowns immediately. +4 on block there. Back recover. +8 on block. It's that active. Which means that if you get a hit, obviously, even not a counter hit, you'll immediately combo into standing heavy punch, then do like a whip cancel into standing medium punch. You can get ridiculous combos off that, but yeah. +8 on block is pretty good. Alright, now let's move on to triggers. Okay, for my money, trigger 1 is where it's at. I think it is significantly better than trigger 2. They both have pretty effective, like, kill sequences. You know, they both can set up guest sequences that will, you know, stun and kill. So they both have, you know, fair enough, like, damage output potential. But I think the utility and the way that it combines with her moves, her already existing moveset, is much better with Trigger 1. That being said, if you're using Trigger 1, I think meter management is going to be important with this character, like deciding when you want to spend meter with this character. Because if you get a bar and you do like EX heart rate, you start a little bit of offense, but you know, it's not that much. I feel like you want to be saving up a lot of meter a lot of the time, and then if you find like just peppering away or just occasionally like trying to play the mid-range a bit, building up some chip damage, getting some free shots here and there, abusing your really good throws, and then you know, if you build up a certain amount of damage on the opponent, you won't have to make as big of a play when you start actually spending your resources and completely mauling your opponent with your ridiculous plus frames and pressure. So yeah, probably like if you build up some damage, and then if you get like a good hit or something in neutral, and you've built up a fair amount of resources, especially if you have trigger ready to go, then I would probably like, start the offense, start spinning the bar, really force the guesses over and over and over, and look for the stun. But anyways, yes, let's get into trigger. So you can activate off of any of her buttons. And, like, roundhouse is probably a good button to go through. EX moves you can activate off of. Well, some EX moves. So you can activate off that, which is okay. I think it's a little bit of a waste of a bar, honestly. Like, you want to be spending your bar once you are in trigger and getting its benefits, not just to activate into it. But, yeah, so Crouch Fierce, if nothing else, will give you an activation. You can get into your trigger. And then once you're activated, you have Molotovs. Trigger 1. Alright, so you have up Molotov and forward Molotov. You can, you get 2 Molotovs and it's over. So these are launchers. They can cancel off of a lot of stuff. They'll pop the opponent up. If the opponent is crouching, there's a little bit, so right at the start it becomes a mid, and then later, like a little bit afterwards, it'll go over, it becomes a high, and then it becomes a mid again. And this is much more the case with, obviously, the one that goes way high into the air. So yeah, they're launchers, and they burn the ground like a little dulcim pit. And this causes burn damage to their health over time, so long as they are, you know, not on the ground recovering. So I think it's valuable to only go for, like, big damaging combos that take advantage of the flame carpet, or go for restands so that they don't get to just late tech and wait for the fire to go away. So one thing to note about the flames is it will double up. If you so this is how much damage a full flame carpet will do in terms of burn damage, about that much. If you use both of them, twice the burn damage. It's going to be going for twice as fast. So if they are standing on 2 flame carpets at the same time, it will do twice as much damage. Now, ultimately, they don't do that much damage. They don't do crazy damage on burn. You know, like, even if they get the max burn damage, it's still only going to be about that much. So, it's much more valuable, I think, to use the utility of these, but people will probably, you know, be frightened by the burn damage that they're receiving over time, and make hasty actions or try to escape the situation, which will make it easier to open them up. So, even though, realistically, it's not that efficient to use the trigger, you know, and just continue to force them, but if you're, like, pressuring them and continuing to deal chip damage and on the flame carpet and stuff, and they're seeing their health bar go down, they're gonna get anxious and do things they probably shouldn't do. But you can also, of course, use this flame carpet for, you know, damaging combos, for you know, confirms, for keeping moves safe, especially. That's a big part of it. One thing that you can do is you can mess around a lot with your whip options. This whip attack becomes a lot more functionally useful at this point, especially from this range, because you can always keep it safe. Even if you do the heavy version, you can throw the Molotov at any point in the, so after 1, 2, or all 3 hits. Now, Molotov is generally going to be -2 on block, but if you're a bit farther away, you can be more plus. Generally, at most, you're going to be, if they're crouching, you're at most going to be +3, I think. I haven't seen anything more than +3, because that would require you to throw it from farther away, but then farther away, of course, it's going to go over their heads. So, +3 seems to be the range where you can throw it from here and it'll still hit them, even if they're crouching. And then you'll be +3 after that. So yeah, you have this, and then the second hit will pull them in. 0, +1, +2, +3. It's a good way to set out a flame carpet. Just to have them, like if I were to do a throw, heavy punch into the medium options, that would be -2, but that's a good way to set out the flame carpet right underneath them, but still being plus. And then you can start, you know, applying your block strings and your pressure while they're burning. But yeah, you have the options to cancel each one of these attacks into it, which is a frame trap. It's not just a true block string. You know, that will catch them if they try to punish it, which means that because you can do it after every single strength, you get some opportunities to do some shenanigans, sort of like the Rekka character that she used to be in Street Fighter 4. You can threaten to do just 2, and then, like, leave it, and then go for something else. You can do 2 into a Molotov. You can do all 3 into a Molotov. You can do any number into, like, an up toss, which if they're not ready, you know, if they're not ready to punish that immediately, then you can get that out there. You can take advantage of that. So yeah, you have a lot of options that you can do with that. You can also keep your up kicks safe, which means that you can commit to those a little bit more liberally than you might normally, and you can always keep them safe on block with the Molotov. I would say if you're canceling an attack, I would recommend doing the if you're fairly close, I'd recommend doing the one that goes straight up into the air rather than the forward one, just because it'll push them a bit further back on block. So yeah, there's lots of things that you can turn into frame traps or keep safe with the Molotov, and then that's not even talking about confirms that you can get. So any normal hit into just the launcher itself, you can go into the EX option. You're generally going to need meter to effectively combo off this. So yeah, you can do that. That'll keep them burning on top of the flame pit for a long time. And it does a lot of damage. You can also do the EX anti-air version. If you're further away, like say you get heavy punch, you can walk back a little bit before doing medium heart rate, and then throw the Molotov. And then it'll combo, but it'll combo from further away. Which means you can get some slower options. You can get like EX medium heart rate, which will pull them all the way back, and you can continue to take advantage of the flame carpet. You can do a setup with another Molotov. If you're doing the up kicks, like a simple confirm like this, you throw it into the straight Molotov, and then they're higher up when you do them off of the heel up kick, which means you can immediately go into the medium, the slower heart rates. You know, it doesn't matter if they're further away or not. Another thing that you can do when they're higher up like that is go straight into a heavy heal, which has a higher juggle property than the other ones. Yeah, you might have to do it from yeah, and that has a really good knockdown, you know, if you're at mid-screen or something. You're gonna be staying right on top of them with that. Another big strength, people don't talk about this enough, but it really, really matters, is that if you're a character that has a multi-hitting attack, when does it deal its stun? You want it to deal its stun on the very last hit. So, luckily, you know, Poison has a great, like, last stun getting thing where she can do this entire attack, and even if they only have a little bit more stun left, it'll do all the damage before doing the stun on the last hit. So it's a really great way to, you know, more freely optimize your damage to stun output when you're getting the stun off of certain attacks. So yeah, it's great for characters to have options like that. If you see like a Karen player would like end a combo by getting the stun with in the corner with the EX kick move, the Mujinkyok instead of the Rasenha, which is normally what they do to get the damage, it's because that's a move that will get the stun on the last hit, so, you know, they're optimizing their damage output in that way. So, it's really great for Poison to have a move like this. And then if you're in the corner, you're going to be going into the up Molotov more. You can get 2 Molotovs in a row if you get the up one first. So you can double up on flame damage. I don't know if it's entirely worth it, but, you know, the option is there. Another big thing, speaking of, you know, I talked about medium kick is hit confirmable. You're also going to be able to hit confirm this, any of her heart raids. you can hit confirm into super, which is really deadly, especially because considering you have a low one. So the fact that you can, you know, do a Karen like hit confirm low from you know, half screen away into all that damage is pretty good. But not only can you hit confirm him into that, you can hit confirm it into the trigger as well, which makes it much more deadly to like hold this, and if they get hit by it, so yeah, this trigger gives her access, you know, extra damage, extra safety, extra pressure options. She gets extra moves that she can more safely throw out in neutral because she can keep them safe and even apply like pressure with or confirm off of. She gets much more dangerous, threatening like frame traps and confirm options. Another thing off of this particular setup, where you can do like the EX heart rate into the toss, and but if they back recover it, you don't have really up the setups I've seen with this, you don't have great options to cover them if they just like backdash or jump back off of after back recovering, because the Molotov isn't gonna fall on them. So I workshopped and found a meaty that I think is pretty effective in that situation, where you can walk forward and if they back recover, just do a single whip of this because it has very low pushback on block. So yeah, because of that, and it hits in the air and causes a juggle property, unlike other meaties that she could do in that situation. So it'll, if they backdash, if they jump back, if they get hit, anything, it'll cause them into put them into that juggle state. Like so. Then we have trigger 2, which is okay. It's okay. I think this is not great. There's some benefits to it. The fact that it is a similar to a birdie's chain. You can use it to go through fireballs, because if it makes contact through a fireball, it'll trigger the animation even if the fireball's coming out. But I don't think she needs it. She has other anti-zoning tools that are effective, and it's still beaten out on startup if you're trying to react to a fireball. It has really bad startup. It's a command grab that you can see. It has bad recovery because it is a command grab. So you can do it on block. You can do things on block into it, like as frame traps, but you can see it. You can see it and then jump over it. Like, it'll catch some people off guard. Even if you hit it, you know, it doesn't have great Oki. But it is handy to extend combos without needing meter. That is one benefit that you get from it. Trigger 1, you're definitely going to need a lot of meter, because after you launch them with the Molotov, you need something with meter. Unless you're doing it off of an up kick, you can do the Molotov, and then you can do the heavy kick. You don't need meter to do that. But most of the other situations you're going to be landing it, you're going to need meter to do that, or that. So you're going to need meter to use trigger 1. You don't really need meter to do this one. And more beneficially, you get a pretty good command grab with really good range, honestly. And you get good Oki off of it. You know, it's... So yeah, she is threatening, you know. She can continue to do it. It's a good arsenal to her Vortex game, but it's just not as, doesn't have as much utility as trigger 1. And is not going to, she's not going to be extending her combos as well with this one, because in order for you to extend your combos, you're going to need to get much worse Oki. But as far as I've tested, that's about it. That's what this trigger had. You have you know, you can get a little chunk extra damage, but you know, remove your Oki. And yeah, both triggers allow you to get some better anti-airs than you normally would. Trigger 1 is much more effective at doing that. Yeah, you can get some really hefty anti-airs with also with good damage and good Oki. Good setups in Trigger 1. You're just gonna maybe get like a little bit extra damage in Trigger 2. So yeah, Trigger 2, of course, you know, has the command grab. You know, has that threat. It's a really good command grab. But, you know, you have to decide if this command grab's existence and the threat that it poses and is worth picking this trigger for. Alrighty, and that's pretty much it, you know? That is my assessment of the character. I think she's pretty good.